Christ, when he was asked what he was to do concerning taxes, then Matthew 22, just 4 chapters later, verse 21, when he was asked, should we pay taxes to Caesar? Look at his response. He says, give to Caesar the things that are Caesar's and give to God the things that are God's, creating already a separation of church and state. That which we give to Caesar belongs in this side. That which we give to the church belongs over here. The two are separated, and neither the twain should meet. And for the last 2,000 years, we've tried to do just that. No, not always so great. Sometimes we have failed. But certainly that has been the model, that has been the paradigm that we have tried to work towards. Because whenever the church and state are brought together, the state then corrupts the church. And that's where we've seen our dark periods of our history. And it is that I look at today when I look at the two different covenants and I say, it's the later covenant, it's the covenant of Jesus Christ that I follow, which has a totally different paradigm, which has totally different influences. And of course, in that model, I'm not permitted to use violence. Not at all. There's no need for violence anymore. But that's not to say that there is not violence in the Bible. There is violence in the Bible. And almost all of it is in the Old Testament. We've got to deal with the violence in the Old Testament. And I'll put my hands up and I will admit, I'll be the first to admit, Shabir, that the violence in the Old Testament is much greater than the violence in the Qur'an. And I'll put my hands up and I will admit, I'll be the first to admit, Shabir, that the violence in the Old Testament is much greater than the violence in the Qur'an. I'll be the first to admit that. It is much greater. It's horrendous violence. In Joshua chapter 6, verse 20, where Joshua commands the people to go in and kill all men, women, and children, even live animals. We don't see references like that in the Quran. And so it troubles us, those of us who follow the paradigm of Jesus Christ, when we read and we look back in the Old Testament, because we say, where is the peace that is there? And what are we going to do with the violence of the Old Testament vis-a-vis the peace that we see in the person of Jesus Christ, in the gospel of Jesus Christ? What are we going to do with the horrendous verses? Not only surrounding what happened in Jericho, what happened a few chapters later in the city of Ai.
On the other hand, I think that Jay, while he has admitted that the violence in the Old Testament is much greater than in the Quran, and these are his words, which I've written down as soon as he spoke them, he seems to think that the New Testament presents a different picture of morality, and we should guard against this. He brought me actually greetings from our good friend James White. And James White has written in his book, The God Who Justifies, on page 61, in response to those Christians who may think, okay, that was the God of the Old Testament, now in the New Testament things are different. In response, White has this to say: there is only one God, and the God of the Old Testament is identical in every way to the God of the New. So we cannot look at two different moralities here. Why is the New Testament then different? In his article on jihad in the Blackwell Companion to the Quran, the Jewish writer Reuben Firestone explains the situation in which both the Talmud and the New Testament were written. Here we're talking about the context. Now the context here was different. The New Testament and the Talmud were written at a time when Rome dominated, and there was no hope, either from among the Jews or from among the Christians, that somehow a political struggle will result in any victory. So a passive approach was taken. And this is particularly in page number 313 of the Blackwell Companion to the Quran, in which Reuben Firestone has laid out this case. And one can see this to be true. Jesus, according to the New Testament, was the Messiah who was expected to rule on the throne of David. So that the verse that was quoted about this says that God said to him, sit at my right hand till I make your enemies your footstool. The imagery was that Jesus would sit in a political rule on a throne that was left vacant by David, and that God would have it such that Jesus would be resting his feet on the slain bodies of his enemies. It was to be a political battle, a military confrontation. But when that could not work, the New Testament writers, writing in a milieu in which they dared not be represented as the terrorists of their day, they wrote things like Romans 13 and 1 Peter, in which it is entirely pacifist. You submit yourself to the ruling authority of the day, do not resist. And this is why Jesus is represented in the Gospel of John as saying, my kingdom is not of this world. So this is a later rewriting. John, the last of the four Gospels, now takes the Messiahship and gives it a different meaning. It's not anymore about sitting on the throne of David in this life, At least not in the first coming. But when he comes back, the book of Revelation tells us what he will do. He will have a major confrontation with his enemy. His tongue itself will be of a sword, and he will slay everyone except the false prophet and the Antichrist, who will be thrown into the fire. Everyone else, according to the book of Revelation, will be slain by Jesus when he comes back and engages the enemy in that major battle. So the battle motif is present in the Old and in the New Testament. Christians are peaceful, but despite the Bible. And some Muslims are violent, but despite the teachings of the Qur'an. Thank you.